And athletes have been fulfilling this motto very rapidly. The winner of the marathon at the London 2012 Olympic Games finished the marathon in 2 hours and 8 minutes. Now, if he had, in that specific race, the winner from the 1912 Olympic Games, that guy would have arrived 30 minutes late. The Olympics are also about human values. To share a story with you, allow me to take you back to 1936. Berlin Olympic Games. The whole world was waiting for these two athletes to compete against each other for the first time in the same venue. Lutz long jumper, he held the European record back then, and Jesse Owens, the world record holder. On August 4th, in the morning, qualifications, long jumps, qualifies seamlessly, no problem. Jesse goes for jump number 1, fails. Goes for jump number 2, fails. So one more jump to go. Should he not nail that, there are no dreams of medals anymore for the world record holder. Now, for a champion such as Jesse Owens, this is quite a remarkable moment. And underneath everyone's eyes, he was sitting down at the edge of the track with his head in his hands, not knowing what to do. One more jump. Then something quite unexpected happened. Underneath everyone's eyes, and mind you, this was Berlin, 1936. Long, the German athlete, walks up to Jesse Owens and whispers something into his ear. Some minutes later, Jesse takes on the track, jumps, qualifies. In the afternoon, these two gentlemen compete head-to-head. They break the Olympic records for 5 consecutive times. And the competition ends with Jesse taking home the gold medal and Long taking home the silver medal. But more importantly, Long being the first one to congratulate Jesse on his big achievement. Some years later, we find out actually what Long whispered into Jesse's ear. We discovered that Long was coaching Jesse. He was telling him, you don't have to win this right now. We just have to qualify, and then we're going to compete in the afternoon. These two gentlemen remained friends for the years to come. Unfortunately, 1943, Lutz Long falls on the battlefield as a German soldier. But in one of his last letters, he mentions these words: respect, friendship, and excellence are just some of the human values that are represented by the Olympics. Times have changed. If we move forward to 2014, we see that the values that the Olympic movement represents are still the same. In the opening speech of the Sochi Olympic Games, Thomas Bach, the president of the International Olympic Committee, stresses that. Respect, friendship, and excellence. So good morning to you. My name is Mounir. I work as a senior sports technologist at the U.S. Olympic Committee, and I will spend the next minutes trying to show you how I believe technology is going to shape sports in ways that we had never imagined before. A little bit about myself. I'm originally from Lebanon. I grew up between Lebanon and Cyprus. I spent the longest stretch of my life in Europe, where I got a PhD in biomedical engineering. I met my beautiful wife. We had our first kid. We moved to the US only 3 years ago, and now we have another baby. The US Olympic Committee focuses on helping Team USA achieve high results. Now, in the Olympic world, competition is quite high, much like all your industries. It's so high that even once a race is over, it's difficult to determine who won. Just look at this photograph. Competition is so high that blinking your eye is actually slower than the difference between a gold medal and no medal. Now, when we're talking about such small margins and the language that you will see very familiar in many national Olympic committees, we talk always about the 1% difference. How can we create a 1% gap with respect to international competition so that our athletes have a competitive edge? How do you get that 1%? Now, in Team USA, we start with a very, very simple principle. Very simple. We need to be able to measure whatever we can. And if we cannot measure it, we have to make our best to make it measurable. That's the only way in which we can move forward. Now, talking about measuring and talking about athletes' performance, let me share with you a little bit about how athletes' performance used to be performed, let's say, not even 10 years ago. We don't have to step way, way back in history. This is a classical scene from any testing facility for athletes. Probes, electrodes, masks, sensors, whatever you could put on an athlete's body. Athletes had to come into standardized environments like physiology labs or biomechanics labs. And we as analysts and we as experts were asking them to perform their sport in a very natural way. Imagine you're swinging that golf club out on the field. Imagine you're shooting that soccer ball out on the soccer field. Science was accurate, yes. Engineering was very accurate. The algorithms that we developed were very accurate. But the results that we obtained were not very relevant, to be honest with you. They were not relevant because the core ingredient, which is the motion that we were trying to understand and study, was not the real motion that an athlete would perform in his or her natural field of play. Now, in 2002 was quite a historical year. The Queen Mother unfortunately passed away. The euro became the currency in many European countries who had no idea what was coming towards them. But most importantly for us, for this first time ever, small devices that could be worn on the body of a person were becoming available on the research market, not yet on the consumer or prosumer market. Devices that still had cables connected to them, but still they were able to be positioned on the bodies of people. Now, 2002 was also another historical year for my very dear friend Pietro, who had to become extremely, extremely athletic. He became quite quick. He was running actually quicker than the athlete at certain points. I had the privilege of holding that camera, but I had no idea that 13 years after the fact, I would still be using this video. And I had no idea that this was one of the pioneering efforts in sports wearable technology, and it's wearable technology like we intended today. We have come in 13 years to places that we had never imagined. We're not talking only about technology that can be positioned on the body of athletes or patients and that can be used to analyze how they move. We're talking about a whole new world. We're talking about being able to insert inside an earbud more technology than we would have ever imagined back in 2002. It was really beyond imagination. This is like the Jetsons of technology. Now, as we move forward, and thanks to the work that you guys are doing, and with lots and lots of interesting technologies coming out of the various sectors that Raghu was mentioning earlier on today, we are abolishing many of the challenges that we had to face in the past. Challenges such as battery duration, challenges such as wireless capabilities, challenges such as transmission capabilities. Advances in the smart fabric area and the flexible electronics are amazing. And I believe that thanks to the engagement of lots of the fashion industry, we will see this grow to heights that we can never imagine. Now, if we begin adding another layer on top of this, the layer of the Internet of Things, and begin understanding that when we're thinking about sports and when we're thinking about athletic performance, we cannot limit our thinking only to how an athlete bodies perform, but also to how does the environment that that athlete is inhabiting today adapt itself to maximize his or her outcome. Then it becomes really interesting. Think about the smart venues that we're talking about. Think about smart buildings. Think about smart training centers, the smart homes that can become a core ingredient of Olympic medals moving forward. And if you add upon this yet another layer of analytics and big data analytics, then we are heading towards a direction where we will be uncovering some insights to questions that we don't even know today what those questions are. But it's thanks to these advances in technology that we'll be able to get there. Now, I believe that the athletes today are much, much more intelligent than the athletes of yesterday. They are more informed. An athlete today is able to make the best informed decision in her capacity. The athlete of yesterday was not able to do that. She had to rely on experience, on past data, on memory, on intuition. So as we move forward, we will begin to see athletes who are able to determine automatically, immediately after the action, for example, how quick they were spinning, how high they were jumping, how consistent they were, how quick and how strong are they throwing their punches, almost in real time, immediately after the fact, or why not during the fact. And if we begin thinking about Paralympics and the possibilities in Paralympics, considering that it is the only discipline where there's always a machine besides the man or an accessory besides the man, the equation is about optimizing the man-machine interaction. It's not only about the man himself. It's amazing. Now, I wanted to share with you an example from one of the Team USA sports. It's under cycling. It's an indoor cycling program, and the specific sport is called Team Pursuit. How many of you are familiar with what Team Pursuit is? Okay, so about 5% of the room. So I'm happy to include a video just to show you what Team Pursuit is about. Devin, can you please put down the volume? Thank you. Team Pursuit is the Formula One of cycling. 4 athletes start. There's a very specific strategy in place. Athletes switch positions, mainly because the leading athlete is the one exercising most effort. And whenever that effort is not optimal anymore, it's not maximum anymore, that cyclist drops to the back and rests for 3 rounds until it's his turn again to lead the group. The race ends when the first 3 cyclists of any team crosses the finish line. So you'll see them at a certain point spreading out and then trying to cross the line at the same time. The 4th cyclist is optional. So usually you would have the 4th cyclist there to pull the team as much as he or she can. Now, in such a sport, and if I'm reading there correctly, total time is 4 minutes and 4 seconds. And the Netherlands beat Colombia by 0.2 seconds. We're not even talking about the 1% anymore. It's much, much, much smaller margin. So how do you get that? I'll tell you what our team is doing and how we are helping our team leverage emerging technology to get to that level. Now let's take a snapshot of the different data points that we are collecting currently from our women's team pursuit as they train in the velodrome in Colorado Springs. We have technologies that are worn on the athlete's body. We have heart rate monitors, and we have muscle oxygen monitors. We have technologies that are placed on the bicycles, where we can measure power, we can measure cadence, and we can measure speed. We have sensors that are embedded within the velodrome. We can measure times and split times. And we have video cameras that track a team. And then you begin adding another layer, which is weather-related data. Barometric pressure, temperature, humidity, wind. Now all of that data actually contributes to the final outcome. Because if our team were training in the velodrome in Carson, LA at sea level, the air is denser over there with respect to Colorado Springs, which is at 1,800 meters, or about 6,000 feet. So how do you take account of these variables? How do you begin informing the team about the best decision possible? And how do you get that information to the coach and to the athletes? We leverage the IoT principles. We leverage real-time analytics. We leverage big data analytics. We get all of those data points, we sync them in time, we pull them into the cloud, we run intelligence in the cloud, and then we streamline down back to the coaches and down back to the athletes only the pieces of information that they need to view or listen to in that specific moment in time. Our athletes wear smart eyewear that have a viewfinder that can show them what they need to see, and has an earphone that tells them what they need to hear. The coach has a tablet. On that tablet, he runs a dashboard. The dashboard can be as simple as he wants it to be or as complicated as he wants it to be. The athlete and the coach today are more intelligent than the athletes and the coaches of yesterday. And this is just one very simple, tiny example. Now, if we look forward and if we see and begin imagining where technology is going and how that can impact sports, I would say the limit is only our imagination. If I think about the distance that we covered from 2002, from that historical video that we shot in Rome, to 2015, I would say that's half the speed at which we will move over the next 12 years. The advances in technology will be mind-blowing, and the sports world will benefit greatly, greatly from it. Now, Raghu mentioned that we have some end users, about 20% of end users over here, about 20% working in the smart fabric area, and about 20% working in the components area. So I feel the duty of giving you two very simple messages. A message to the providers. When you are devising a solution for the end users, please make sure that you bring the right people on board inside your company. People who know how to speak the language of the market. If you are venturing into the sports market, you have to have people at your company who know how to speak the coach's language, who know how to speak the athlete's language. I've seen many situations, both as a technology provider and as a technology receiver right now, where success was not met simply because there were no translators between the technical group and the end user. At a certain point, you get to a conflict, and there's no way around that. A message to the receivers, to the end users: make sure that you bring the right companies on board. When you're thinking about a technology to adopt or a technology to begin investigating, you should not look only at the company and you should not look only, at the technology content of the company. But you should understand who are the people behind the company, how willing are they to be available with you when you're running your tests and running your experiments, how available are they to run various iterations with you that keep you as a client or as an end user in the focus of the attention and not drive the conversation towards technology. Does Some very, very simple elements, but these elements make the difference between success and no success. Now, I really hope that you will join me in dedicating your efforts to sport. I strongly, strongly believe that sport can change the world in ways that we cannot imagine. It's a social vehicle that we are not exploiting, and I believe that sport will benefit a lot from your contribution. Thank you. Hope to see you in Rio.